So many people start out racing FPV drones completely wrong, waste tons of money, and end up learning everything the hard way. So in this video, I'm going to show you my simple 5-step solution to get anyone started, exactly what gear to buy, and the powerful method I've used time and time again to find awesome friends that just simply boost my flying skills. Okay, so to understand how my 5-step solution works, I first need to tell you about the method that will absolutely change your entire FPV experience. How do I know, you might be wondering? Well, because it absolutely transformed mine. About a year and a half ago, I was pretty much completely alone in the hobby. I had no friends who were interested in drones, knew pretty much no one online, and had no idea if there was even anyone else in New Zealand who actually flew. Completely by chance though, I had a friend, who knew I loved FPV drones, tagged me in a Facebook event for a national FPV drone race. Pretty soon after that, I'd made the decision to attend the event with no intention of racing. This would seriously be the first time I'd ever seen more than one FPV drone flying at any one time, so to say I was stupidly excited would probably be an understatement. Anyways, skip forward a month, I'd gone along to the event and had a great time, but it was only when I was on my 5-hour drive back home that I started wondering what the heck I was going to do now that I'd left all of my friends behind. I was going back to solo flying with absolutely no idea where to look for local pilots, but that is when I decided to jump on Facebook yet again. And no, not while driving, just when I got home. I headed onto the New Zealand FPV drone group, which honestly was nothing too special, and I was super doubtful I would actually find anyone on there that was nearby to me. But somehow, by the absolute luck of God and, well, a lot of scrolling, there was a post from 5 weeks prior that I found. It read something along the lines of, "Are there any other pilots around the Wanaka area who would be keen on meeting up to have a fly?" At this stage, I was seriously dumbfounded that there was actually someone else around me, let alone someone else who wanted to meet up and fly. Long story short though, the people who wrote that post are now my super good friends Julius and Sam, and yeah, we fly together pretty often still. Through this experience, I've now stumbled across what might be the easiest and most effective method to actually find new people near to you with the same interests. By following this method, you'll set yourself up to ensure that the feeling of loneliness doesn't hit you as hard as it did for me, and that you level up your skills a whole lot faster while having a truckload more fun. Think of finding new like-minded friends and becoming involved in a community similar to that of joining a running club. While running alone will certainly keep you fit, you may find it difficult to actually push yourself and learn new things. Flip that on its head though and start running with a bunch of others in a club, and you'll find that you get pacing buddies, learn new routes, and even provide a bit of friendly competition. Similarly, flying solo with your drone can be comfortable but unchallenging, while flying with others brings you new courses, strategies, and, well, certainly friendly competition as well. It simply brings out the best in everyone through structured races and tons of communal support. Alrighty, so at this point you might be thinking, what the heck do you need to do for this to work for you? Well, there are 2 sites that you'll need to be a part of. The first being good old Facebook. Simply join up to as many FPV drone groups nearby to you, or if you live in a smaller country like I do, join any national groups that might exist too. Once you're in the groups, have a browse around and see if anyone else has put out a call to see if there are others nearby to them. If there are, it doesn't matter how old the post is, just fire a comment or a DM through and just see where it takes you. If there are no posts though, put one out for yourself, as you just never know who's looking. The second site to be a part of requires a tad more effort, but will make finding friends even more of a breeze. You'll need to have a Discord account set up, and then you'll need to start having a look at online FPV stores and see if any of them have a Discord group linked. If they do, I'm sure you know the drill. Join them, fire a message to the general chat room, and see who's nearby to you. If you're struggling with any Discord groups, go to your favorite creators here on YouTube and just see what they have available. The unfortunate reality is that you might not be as lucky as I was in terms of finding IRL friends immediately, but at the very least, you can always jump on video calls and fly with them in simulators. This is actually still one of the most common ways that I keep in touch with all the guys who I met at that drone racing event, as otherwise they're a 5-hour drive away. Okay, so this leads us on to something that I like to call the up system. There's 5 steps that stack on top of each other that I'm certain can take anybody from knowing literally nothing about FPV to signing up to their first ever drone racing event. Now, it is crucial that you follow each of these steps in order and don't skip any of them, otherwise I can't guarantee that everything will work out so easily for you. But with that being said, let's start off at the beginning with step 1. This is the first building block that we'll be stacking all of the other steps on top of, so it's really important that you take your time here and probably don't follow in my footsteps back when I was getting started. Initially, I had no clue what I was doing. I bought myself the cheapest FPV drone kit around and tried to fly without doing any sort of research beforehand. I guess realistically, the fact that you're watching this video, hopefully before buying a whole bunch of gear, means that you've already one-upped me, so good on you. Anyways, the point of step one is to do your research into what gear you need and whether you want to build or buy. That means figuring out the video system that is best for you, the controller that suits you best, and of course, the drone or parts for your build. But I totally get it, this is starting to feel like the most overwhelming part. It's literally the reason I never did my research before starting out and inevitably ended up buying the wrong things. So, to combat this overwhelm for you, I've put together two totally different budget options of gear that will take every choice out of things and just set you up for success a little bit later on in the video. Before that though, I want to show you the rest of the system. Step 2, I call Startup. This is again another place where I really fell short when starting out. Instead of spending time, I chose to spend money and pretty much went straight to flying in real life. That meant I broke more things on my drone from crashing, ruined countless batteries, and really found that I had limited my skills by skipping this step. For you, however, this is the step where you jump on a simulator with your shiny new controller and just practice the heck out of flying. It can seem draining and intense, and well, that's because it actually is a little bit. But give yourself some grace and some time, and just remember that you're learning something completely new, so it can only really get easier going forward. I initially started flying after about 4 hours on the simulator, which wasn't so bad for a bit of fun, but I then chose to neglect the simulator going forward for a long time, and well, that's one of the things that I would change if I could go back in time. Alrighty, on to step 3. Level up. Now, if you're still following this 5-step system, you'll know by now that you enjoy the challenge of drone racing in general, which is exactly why it's super important to make sure you've actioned what we talked about earlier. If you haven't by this stage found someone else to fly with in real life, this is when you need to find a group of others to fly around with. There's really no excuse to not be able to find a group of like-minded people either, not at least when we have the power of the internet. I mean, heck, there are hundreds of thousands of FPV drone nerds around the world, so I know for a fact that you can find a few somewhere. Now, once you've got your group, either in real life or virtually, it doesn't matter, it's time to implement step 4. This is the only step that I actually nailed first time while getting started, and it's also the step that I think progressed me forward so much faster than I could possibly have gone on my own. What I'm talking about here is going to race events, spectating, chatting, and learning everything that others are willing to teach you. From here, you're able to really start to wrap your head around how racing works, the adrenaline highs and lows, and the types of moves you should be trying your best to train up with. For me, this all started when I went to that initial drone racing event. It was there that I learned just how amazing the community is, what drone racing is all about, and well, what I was going to try out next. Obviously, you aren't going to learn everything all at once, but you'll certainly pick up on fundamentals that you otherwise wouldn't have just by being around people that are more skilled than you. Think of it like if you were to spend an entire day in a room full of super good dragon trainers. Yeah, we're talking dragon trainers here. Regardless of whether you're actually trying to learn how to train a dragon or not, you'll end up picking up on some tips or tricks that you just never would have known by hearing their dragon training stories. And yeah, I have no idea why I chose to talk about dragon training, but hey, you're welcome. That now leaves us with one final step before we get to my recommendations on exactly what gear you should be buying. And to be honest, this final step is actually the simplest of them all, yet it might also be the most nerve-wracking one to actually pull off. All you have to do to complete the system and go from knowing little to nothing to going all the way to that first race is to actually sign up. You got to get that first official race booked in for yourself, even if it's not some massive national drone race and instead is a small tournament that you organize with your friends. But just make it official for yourself, don't worry about getting first place, and just set yourself the goal of being a part of it all. To really seal the deal for you, I've put together a full digital cheat sheet with tick off as you go milestones that you can download totally for free. I've got that as the first link in the description, so head on down and grab that one. Alright, now that you've got the simple up system nestled into your tool belt, it's time to put it all into action by, well, starting step 1, gear up. Think of your drone gear choices like a pair of shoes. Every sock, shoe, and grip is designed for specific activities like trail running or fancy dress-ups, and every shoe has got a different fit for different people. It's pretty much the same as your drone, goggles, and controller. There are so many different options for different use cases like filming or racing, and some people just don't fit specific gear comfortably. In the past, I've found that it can be pretty tough figuring out what is best for racing specifically too, especially when you don't know what to look for. A bad drone purchase can pretty easily end up being the equivalent of wearing a pair of dress shoes when you want to go out on a run. So to make things as easy as possible for you, I've put together one budget-friendly option to get you ready to race and one all-out option for those of you who just want the best of the best, no exceptions. Starting off with controllers. A solid budget-friendly controller that comes with ELRS built into it is the Radio Master Pocket Radio. ELRS is going to continue becoming more of the golden standard in FPV, and it's widely used for racing thanks to its low latency, so it's just best to go with that over anything else right now. On the other end of the spectrum though, the premium option that I'd go with right now is the Radio Master Boxer with AGO1 gimbals. Honestly, it is one of the nicest, most solid controllers I have ever flown with, and I would pick it up in a heartbeat over my more expensive TX16S. Anyways, moving on to the goggles, this is by far one of the most important pieces of equipment to get right, as it's going to actually determine whether you're allowed to fly at races or not. What I'm talking about here is goggles that run two-way HD video systems often aren't actually allowed at races due to the large amount of interference that they cause other pilots. That means the big systems like DJI and WalkSnail are both off the charts and instead leaves us with Analog, HD0, and SharkBite. For the budget option, analog is going to be the best way to go. You'll suffer from a bit of a worse looking image, but this is still how a lot of racers like to fly, as it's what they're most used to. For this, I'm recommending the Beta FPV VR03 goggles, as they are some of the cheaper but more recent goggles around for analog. I do want to say I don't personally own them, nor have I actually tested them out. However, I've used plenty of box goggles in the past and they're all pretty damn similar. Then for the premium choice, it's HD0 all the way, baby. This is quickly becoming the absolute top tier standard for racing, and it just looks great. So if you can afford it, I couldn't recommend it more. That then leaves us with the most exciting choice to make, and it's also one of the hardest ones to recommend anything for. Most racers will agree that you should build your own race drone so you know how to fix it when you inevitably break it. And while I do agree with that, I'm also of the opinion that if building a drone looks too daunting to you right away, or you simply just don't want to, don't build one. There are plenty of solid pre-built drones out now, so for these options, I'm only going to recommend pre-builds as they're the most straightforward way to get started. The budget option here is to go with the Meteor 75 Pro. Just make sure it's the analog one and not the HD0 one, otherwise you're going to have to get the HD0 system, which is more expensive. It's certainly no 5-inch full-spec racer, but it will absolutely allow you to race around and get the hang of flying in tight spaces from the comfort of your own backyard. But then, if you think you're ready for a full-spec premium race drone, I'd point you straight towards the 533 website where you can get a ready-to-fly 533 Light Switch V2 with HD0 installed into it. I've left all of those links down in the description below so you can find what suits you best alongside that cheat sheet from before. Now, although you are indeed equipped with the gear, system, and community you now need to get started, you do happen to be missing out on one essential element. That element is from step 2, and it's your choice of simulator. If you happen to pick the wrong one, it might make any training you do on it completely useless in the long run, even if it feels like you're getting better. So go over here, watch this video, and make sure you're not wasting your time or your money on the wrong sim.